Ian, I'm right in saying, aren't I, that this is in fact the late Robert Maxwell's chair?
Yes, this is Maxwell's chair. It's very exciting. We bought this shortly after he went overboard, as it were, and we just had a libel action, yet another one, with him, and I thought it was apposite, historically, for me to have his chair.
You did famously once say after that libel action that you had just given a fat cheque to a fat chair.
I did, on ITN News. 250 grand. Quite an expensive joke.
Ian Hislop, great to meet you.
Meet you.
It's 5 minutes, a lot to squeeze in. Time starts now. You've been sued countless numbers of times. I think it's true to say you've only ever won once. How is it that Private Eye has survived?
We sell quite a lot of copies, and if we lose, which, as you kindly point out, we do usually, we just pay up. And if it gets absolutely disastrous, we have in the past put the begging bowl out to our readers and said, sorry, we messed up, can you help out? And they always have.
Tell me a little bit about the role, as you see it, of satire in society, how important it is.
It's very important, obviously. It's traditionally, in this country, it's about the exposure of vice, folly and humbug. Sort of 19th century, 18th century definition, and still valid.
You were a scriptwriter, of course, for Spitting Image. Do you think we miss Spitting Image or an equivalent?
I think it's got diffuse, the satire. I mean, there is quite a lot of it around, and a lot of it done very well. But Spitting Image was, huge audiences, ITV, Sunday night, 15 million. I mean, ridiculous sorts of audiences. Life's changed a bit since then.
You've said a lot of things about a lot of people, not all of them nice. Do you feel that
No, that's true.
do you feel that you've ever stepped over the mark?
What, you mean ever? I would guess I must have done, but on the whole I try and think what I'm going to say before I say it, rather than after.
Do you have any regrets in life?
Yes, but obviously I'm not going into them with you.
It's true, isn't it, that you have never missed a single episode of Have I Got News For You? You've even sat through one when you had appendicitis.
Yes, I thought I was going to miss it, but I got left on a trolley in a corridor in a hospital, and in the end I thought, well, no one cares if I'm here. So I discharged myself and went back to the studio and did it. And actually I was no more grumpy than normal.
Were you in agony, though?
It was quite painful, and I was sitting next to Mariella Frostrup, so maybe that didn't help.
How much practice do you have to put in before you actually record the programme?
How dare you? The idea that either Paul or I would do anything look like rehearsal. No.
Do you get on well with Paul Merton, or are you competitive with him?
That's an either-or, is it? We rub along perfectly happily.
What was it like working for Peter Cook when you were first editor of Private Eye?
Terrific. He was the ideal proprietor. He let me do whatever I like and said brilliant, whatever mess I'd got the magazine into. So he was the ideal proprietor.
When you started out under him, you made a couple of quite high-profile sackings. Would you describe yourself as a ruthless man, Ian?
No, I mean, I was sad to let them go.
Now, you've done a you've talked a lot, obviously, about politics, but I'm not sure any of us really know what your politics is. If you had to stand for a political party, if you absolutely had to stand, which party would that be?
What, you mean at the point of a gun? I had to
stand. At the point of a gun.
At the moment, I think I'd stand for the Vince Cable for Treasurer party.
Now, you've worked, of course, a little bit with Boris Johnson. Do you see him as
worked?
Well,
yeah,
co-presented in a way.
Good word. Yeah.
Do you see him as a charming bumbler, a bumbling charmer, or do you see him as a serious politician?
Well, he's attempting to be both at the moment, and he's not. So far, he's not doing a bad job. He's actually very good at television. His programme on Christianity and Islam is quite brilliant.
Talking about religion, you've described yourself as a doubting atheist. Do you currently believe in God?
Currently? What, you mean literally
right
during
now,
this 5 minutes?
During this 5 minutes?
Yes. And then you can ask me again afterwards. I do vary a lot.
If you were a saint, what would you like to be? I know it's unlikely, possibly, but what would you like to be the patron saint of you?
Oh, lawyers.
What's your biggest remaining ambition? Because you've achieved a lot in your life, obviously. What would you really like to do with the rest of your life, other than carrying on, obviously, with Private Eye and the show?
I think I'd like to finish this interview without saying anything else revealing.
What do you do in your time off, in your private time?
No comment.
You're married to a very famous novelist,
yes.
Victoria Hislop. Have you read...
That's what I do in my private time. I read her novels, avidly.
Have you read both of her novels?
Of course I have.
Who does the washing up and the housework in the Hislop household?
It's a joint enterprise.
Now, tell me a little bit about. You're not going to reveal much, are you? Tell me a little bit before we finish, Ian.
Yes.
About your screenplay that's coming out, because you've co-written this, a bunch of amateurs out over Christmas. Tell me a little bit before we finish about how you got into that.
It's a film about a washed-up Hollywood star who comes over to Britain to do Shakespeare in the hope of reviving his career. It's got Burt Reynolds in it, so you can see the casting was very hard there. I was brought in to do a rewrite on this and put some jokes into it.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
Time is up. Great to meet you, Ian.
Great to meet
Nice to meet
you.
you.